Kentucky and worked on the Mississippi River for the Coast Guard. In that time, I remember having a series of very powerful and very frightening and interesting dreams. And particularly the nightmare that my father was referring to had to do with the Mississippi River itself. I remember in the dream, I walked out of the barracks room, my room, and I was all alone. Everything seemed in its rightful order. There were doors on the left, doors on the right, lights down the hallway. Nothing particularly special, magnificent, or strange at that moment. And then, as I walked down the hall and turned to right to go out the door and I went outside, it was a bit different. Because in real life, there was a hill that you had to get over in order to see the river that we worked on, where the ship would always be at. However, here all I saw was the river bed, utterly dried up, as dry as the Sahara, as dry as the Gobi. The difference was that, oddly enough, there were trees all around this dry riverbed that were lush and green. And laying in the riverbed were hundreds of carp, dead, decaying, all in different states of decay. Some were just bones, others were rotting, others seemed to have freshly died gasping for water. And then the vultures went around having a feast, picking at this one, picking at that one, cleaning up. And I walked into the riverbed, and as I looked around, I started to smell the carp. I started to taste the stench of all those dead carp, of the hundreds, of the thousands of them just laying there, rotting away. And I remember there was one in particular, a carp that I came very close to, that was different from the rest because it had looked like it had been murdered, as if somebody had chopped it to bits. And I remember the head of that carp. And the more that I looked at it, the dream seemed to focus onto it, seemed to zoom in onto the head of this carp. And the closer that the image got to the carp, it started focusing on its open mouth, into that vacuum. And within that vacuum, I fell into it. I fell into the mouth of the carp. And when I had reached the other side of that vacuum, I found a beach, wherein was a sea of faces. A sea of faces that were screaming in horror, in pain, in agony, and they were waving. There were swells, there were waves, there was chop, and it was like a regular sea. In the midday, there was the horizon in the background, the beautiful sun in the sky. The sky was azure. The beach was beautiful. It's just that the ocean itself was full of the damp. And that was it.